Stories are the most powerful thing on earth. They are literally life and death. Wars are waged based on the story of who is the hero and who is the villain. You are the result of a story your parents told each other, the one-night stand, the soulmate, and friends who became so much more. Life and death. So wouldn't you like to understand them better, these stories? How Story Works, an elegant guide to the craft of storytelling by Lani and Rich, demystifies stories and helps you understand why you love what you love, why you hate what you hate, and why prologues are almost always a bad idea. How Story Works by Lani and Rich. Available on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback form. Get your copy today.
Welcome to Still Pretty, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast from Chipperish Media. I'm film scholar and meatbaggy slave to hormones and pheromones and their feelings, Noelle LaCroix.
And I'm story expert Lani and Rich, who Spike is willing to wager when it's all said and done likes it rough. And we're here today to talk about The Weight of the World, the 21st episode of season 5.
The Weight of the World aired on May 15th, 2001 and was written by Douglas Petrie and directed by David Solomon.
For anyone who's new to Still Pretty, this is a fully spoiled Buffy podcast, which means we are likely to reference things that haven't happened yet in the run. If you are spoiler averse and haven't seen all of Buffy, go take care of that. Come on back. Is everyone here very stoned? Let's go on patrol. In The Weight of the World, Glory's in her mansion getting ready for her big day, but everything feels a bit off. Back at the abandoned gas station, Buffy's still catatonic. She doesn't respond to Willow talking to her, nor to Spike slapping her. Willow takes charge and gives everyone a job to do while she figures out how to reach Buffy. Spike says at least now they'll know that Ben is Glory, but no one else can remember this.
Do we suspect that there may be some kind of connection between Ben and Glory?
Glory takes Dawn to a construction site where the group of people she destabilized are busy at work, welding a structure together. Glory leads Dawn into the construction office and tries to comfort Dawn, then wonders why in the world she's trying to comfort Dawn. She blames Dawn for making her feel bad.
Knock yourself out, girlfriend. Make me feel bad as you can. Because tomorrow, you bleed, little girl.
At Xander's, Willow leaves Anya to take care of Tara in the living room while she goes into the bedroom and performs a spell, allowing her inside Buffy's mind. She finds herself in a brightly lit bedroom with little girl Buffy, who's playing with a doll. Little Buffy says hi to Willow, and then Joyce and Hank come home with baby Dawn. Buffy asks if she can take care of Dawn, and Joyce says yes. Then we snap to a moment with adult Buffy putting away a book at the magic box. Next thing we know, Willow's outside in the desert, standing by a fire.
Okay.
Xander picks up Giles at the hospital, and the wound that had him near death at the gas station hours ago is minor enough now that they send him home with some bandages and a bottle of Tylenol. But are we here to nitpick? Well, kind of. Giles and Xander go to the mental ward and find that all of the people Glory destabilized are gone. Huh. Spike shows up, says he knows a guy who might have some information about Glory, lights up a cigarette right in front of the no smoking sign, and says he found Ben's room at Glory's.
Wait. Ben? At Glory's? You're saying all this time he's been subletting from her?
And that, my friends, is how you create a joke that never, ever dies. Willow watches as Sanea, the first Slayer, tells Buffy that death is her gift. She watches as Buffy puts the book away again, staring off into space. She turns and sees another version of adult Buffy walking down a hallway toward a door. Willow follows. Back at the construction site, the barrier between Glory and Ben starts to break down, and it is bugging Glory. She sees his memories, feeling his stupid human guilty feelings. She morphs into Ben, who says they can't kill the girl, and then back into Glory. The priest says that's the magical price to be paid for what she's doing, but Glory does not accept that.
Gods don't pay. We do this now.
Willow follows Buffy through her house. They go into Joyce's room where the floor is grass with a dirt mound for Joyce's grave. Willow says she's sorry. Buffy says,
Don't be. Death is my gift.
and they go into Dawn's room where Dawn lies on the bed, staring into space and crying. Buffy takes out a pillow and puts it over Dawn's face, smothering her. Willow shouts at her to stop, but as Dream Dawn stops struggling, Buffy calmly says that death is her gift. At the construction site, Glory turns into Ben and starts to get Glory's memories. He complains about his life and his job to the young girl who's about to be brutally murdered, but then when a guard comes in, he knocks him out and motions for Dawn to follow him.
I'll take you as far as I can. Ditch you before she comes back.
Xander and Spike go to see Doc, the demon who helped Dawn with the spell to resurrect Joyce. Doc tries to hide a box from Xander and Spike, and when Spike notices, Doc fights. He throws the box into the fire, and Xander stabs Doc with a sword. Spike and Xander grab the box and leave, and then Doc's eyes pop back open. Ben leads Dawn through town, and when they dart into an alley, Dawn hits him with some chains and knocks him out. She starts to run, but then Glory wakes up, angry and in pain. Ben and Glory morph back and forth, arguing. Ben says he'll bleed Dawn out right now, ruining Glory's ritual. Glory says she can give Ben a life once it's all over. He doesn't have to die. Finally, Ben makes a very Ben choice.
I'm sorry, I got no choice. It's you or me.
Willow keeps going through the Buffy loop with her, trying to break it. Buffy says that when she put the book away, that's when she realized she couldn't beat Glory. That's when she killed Dawn. Willow's had enough. She tells Buffy to snap out of it. She didn't kill her sister, but if she doesn't wake up, Dawn will die. Buffy wakes up in Xander's room and starts to cry. She and Willow go back to the magic box and ask what they've found. Giles explains that once the ritual is started, the barriers between dimensions will break down and the world will fall into chaos. And he's got some very bad news about how to stop it once it starts.
Buffy, the only way is to kill Dawn.
Okay, so Noelle, here we are, Weight of the World, towards the end of season 5. I love season 5. It is so much fun. And here we are, like, ramping up toward the gift, which is a big goddamn deal. But before we get there, what did you think about Weight of the World?
I'm starting to get nervous about the gift. Like, I know it's coming. Like, the closer we get to the end of season 5 and the more real shit gets, I'm like on edge a little bit. Like, I know what's coming, and I feel like I feel like I spent this whole episode kind of bracing for impact because I know we're not there yet, but we're going to be there. And oh boy, when we get there. But first we have to do all of this parallel, like we divide everybody off into twos and we do all this parallelism. And I have so many thoughts. I do. I have so many thoughts and so much to say, but I also don't know that I have anything to say other than noticing that we have all of these pairings.
I like that. I like that. Let's start talking about these pairings.
I mean, okay, first of all, we start with the amazing, Glory is monologuing, and then we reveal that she's talking, her minions are there, but she's mostly talking to Dawn. And there's something so very sinister about Glory kind of bonding with Dawn. It's reminiscent of the horror genre beat of the killer, like bonding with his victim.
That there's some kind of relationship. And I mean, I honestly, like there is an intimacy between a victim and an abuser, right? There is a level of intimacy that is gained there. And that's one of the things that makes it really hard, when you're in an abusive relationship, to kind of leave it, because it's not just the abuse. There is something that happens. There is a bonding that happens in that circumstance. And you see that with, children who are abused by their parents and people who are abused by spouses. You see that happen all the time. And so there is something truly sinister and unnerving about that. At the same time, like, we are, I think, meant to see that it is Ben's humanity that is seeping over into Glory. But I don't know, because I'm not sure exactly how human Ben is. Like, Ben's humanity is not in a great state, as we're going to see as we move through. I mean, we've seen it all season. But as we move through this episode especially, we're going to see that Ben's sense of guilt and honor and compassion and empathy is not really that strong or strong enough for it to be affecting Glory in this way.
Yeah, I know that as the episode progresses, it is explained. The explanation that we get is that Glory is feeling guilt and feeling like she can't kill Dawn because the barrier, whatever it is, between her and Ben is like thinning, and she's starting to feel his feelings and he's starting to remember her actions. But before we really get that explanation, we get Glory saying to Dawn, she's talking about girls like us.
Yeah.
And she's right in a really interesting way, right? Because they're both in these borrowed forms. But Glory is definitely, I was going to say Glory is definitely more aware of hers, but I think she's differently aware.
Yeah.
You know, I talked about, like, I mentioned this last week that I would have liked to have gotten the details of the Glory storyline a little bit sooner so that we could appreciate this kind of thing, this like parallel between Dawn and Glory for a few more episodes.
Yeah.
Because as we're seeing Glory and Dawn together and Glory is talking about, she's a god, Dawn is the key. They both don't really belong here. They're both going to go home, whatever that means.
Right.
And yeah, she's working her villain mojo on Dawn, but she's also kind of correct in that neither of them is really of this world or of this plane. And then we get this interesting moment where Glory kicks all of her minions out. And she says, get out, get out, get out in this way that is so reminiscent of Dawn's get out.
I can't believe that's an accident. I think that is absolutely reflective. And it's very interesting, though, because she is accessing like all of these very human feelings and responses. And Dawn, I find really interesting because this girls like us thing, right? That they're not entirely of this world. But Dawn, like, aside from the fact that she is at her core of existence, this, key or whatever, is just human. She's just
her experience
human.
of herself
Her experience of herself is human. But she doesn't have access to any special powers. She is not sharing her existence with anybody else. She's just in that space. Like, I find the Dawn thing so interesting and weird in that, yeah, she's the key, but like, so she would go back at death to being this pure energy,
presumably. Yeah.
Right. That, I mean, it's so strange to me that Dawn's experience of herself, like Glory's experience of herself as a god shoved into a human meat sack, is very real. And you understand it. Her consciousness existed pre, that experience. Whereas Dawn doesn't seem to have any consciousness of herself as anything other than this small human girl.
Right.
So
and
it feels weird. Yeah.
Yeah. And Dawn has memories of the past 14 years, presumably. Right. And so does Glory, but Glory's apparently are real because she's been here. Okay. All right. I have a section in my notes.
Yes.
That is just labeled, is everyone here very stoned?
No. Yes.
Because what? Like, all right, I'm going to ask a bunch of questions, and I'm going to get really critical and nitpicky.
I love it.
However, I just want to be clear that I absolutely love this. Like, I love this whole storyline. I love this idea. I just wish that it were fleshed out more and that we got more of it and not, I understand that we are in a fantasy genre. And part of the way that fantasy works is through metaphor, and we don't get explanations for things and how they work. But if you just hand wave everything away as Glory's a god, the key is magic, blah, blah, blah. The monks did this.
Right.
Like, you need to give me a little bit more. That's all I'm asking. I'm not, I don't need this to make entire complete sense in the world. But, okay. The Glory Dawn parallel is fascinating to me. In this whole, they have this shared experience of being like here as humans, even though they're not humans, whatever. But, okay. The timeline makes no sense to me. The addition of Dawn to the world, right? So Glory says she's been waiting for this, meaning waiting to go home for 25 years, presumably human years.
Right.
Which is, I'm guessing, how old Ben is.
Yes.
Because last episode, Gregor told us that Glorificus had to share the form of a human male infant. What? Why? What?
Yeah.
But okay. All right. Sure. Fine. Whatever. So there's this infant, there's this baby that this god form is somehow put into. I don't understand that at all.
I think
okay,
that was the loophole that because Glory wanted to find a way, so she had to undercover of night find a way in, and this was the way that was available to her. It just happened to be sharing this body space with baby Ben, right?
Hide out in a baby. That's a great hiding place. No one will find me
for 25 years. Exactly.
But,
I think
all right, sure, whatever. That
so
feels.
I'm guessing she's hitchhiking on Ben's existence.
That feels fairly mythological, and if I squint, I can get there. All right, fine.
I mean, well, okay. I'm also saying this is what I've filled in my head. How much of this is actually within the text of Buffy is, a little sketchy.
I mean, someone knows. We'll get there. There might be angry tweets. Who knows? But
there's always angry tweets.
There's always angry tweets. Hi.
Hey.
But okay. All right. So fine. So Glorificus joins up with this human infant. Great. Fine. Whatever. What was up with Dawn that whole time? Was the key a key on Earth for 11 years while the monks were trying to use her for the powers of light, which is another thing that Gregor tells us last episode. And then they decided, well, this ain't working. Let's make a baby. Like what? How? What? Why? How? Why? What?
Okay. My understanding of it, and again, with everything that Gregor brought in last week, I don't know. But I mean, my understanding of it is that everybody was looking for the key. And then the monks found the key and then figured out how to put the key in the form of a little girl that they created. And the idea that the monks have the power to create human life. I mean, let's take a step from that, right?
Right.
Like they have the power to create a human life out of nothing with a soul and everything.
And we know that she is human enough, not just human enough, but like connected to her family enough that we get that moment with Doc where he yanks a hair and he says strong DNA. So, I mean, and who knows?
They actually make her from Buffy.
And if Buffy's blood is what ends up working to counteract the evil mojo, like and we have seeded this all season long, right? The connection between Dawn and blood and the connection between Dawn and Buffy and blood. Like we literally had them holding bloody hands and like it's established. Like they are presumably, if you looked at their blood with some sort of hellmouth science, you would see that these people are related to each other in a way that we can understand, like as humans with human science, presumably. But so then what? The monks are able to like they're also like microbiologists in their downtime. What?
I mean, because the thing is that like if you can create like a human life and a human memory of you forever, like this magical effect, if you think about it, is huge, right? Because here we have, we have, the idea of the human existence, the human soul, right? And a soul exists within humans. And when when Angelus was cursed, he was cursed with his own soul, with Liam's soul, which is somehow in existence in the world, independent of that physical, like the whole, the metaphysicality of Buffy is mind blowing and very, very hard to wrap yourself around. Like, I've been trying to figure out the whole, like, what is the soul exactly for a really long time and how it functions. But we've had that discussion a million times, but here we have a soul created from whole cloth, right? The soul is the key, or the key is the soul, and the key becomes human and now is human. But creating human life, I mean, is a big damn deal. Like, how do you do that out of, aside from what we've had all along is two people combine, their DNA and create another person. That's how it's done. That's how souls are created. To do that outside of that biological, that meat sacky, which is such a meat sacky process for something that ends up being
sacky process.
So metaphysical and so like beyond our comprehension and magical, right? So the monks are able to create that, which I think in itself, the ability to create a human child, kind of wild, kind of crazy, kind of like, holy shit, right? That's a big deal. And then stuff inside that meat sack, key, and then affect the memories of everybody around her with the memories of her, which also affects Spike, even though Glory's magic, which she is a god, right?
Yeah,
Spike is able to see that Ben and Glory, right? I mean, the whole thing, if you start looking at it, is so crazy. It spins out into this wild space that, like, how does this make sense?
Well, and I think the real answer, like the actual answer, is it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really supposed to. Like, this is not a show about, like, the nature of existence. It's a show about relationships, which is why Dawn exists in the first place as Dawn. I mean, we've heard it previously on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like, every week, they made the key into the form of a sister so that the Slayer would protect it with her life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not just we made it into a child, we made it into a sister.
Yeah.
So we're using this idea to say something about the nature of family relationships and what that means. And I would also argue that it's not a sibling relationship specifically. It's this very specific idea of an older sister, younger sister.
Yeah.
Like that sororal bond that is supposed to mean something in a big way. And also because, we love to sacrifice young girls. Like, that's just,
it's always young girls who are being sacrificed.
Yeah, we love it so much. We're just gonna do all of the things to the young girls because that's, that's just in the cultural soup.
Done.
But
right. Well, because sacrificing, like, there's this whole thing culturally, like, that men are essentially expendable because you just need one. Right? You need lots of women to be able to create babies, but you could really have one guy fathering all of them, So, like, there is this idea because men go off to war. Men are the ones that are supposed to, it's women and children first, and then men are supposed to sacrifice themselves. So we have that sense of the expendability of men within our culture. And so sacrificing a young girl, oddly enough, despite the fact that we also devalue women in general, sacrificing a girl you're supposed to sacrifice something that is precious, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's that sense of, I think there's some of that playing within this value.
Definitely. Like the sense of not just women as like producers for the collective
baby farms.
Not just women as baby farms and women as like property, but also female purity as currency. This, like, that is what makes the Dawn story and so many stories, that center on a young woman like this.
Yeah.
Like that's what raises the stakes, right? Because she's so young, and it's this like innocent purity,
young, pure, innocence. Yes.
Pardon me while I just throw up. Buffy, the series has some interesting ideas about innocence, but they're not like so far removed from the purity culture of the 90s and the early aughts, in which, you know, like this is all steeped in that, is all to, you know, right? But back to Glory and Dawn, right? What Glory has been here as Ben or not? I'm so confused. I'm so confused. And it's a bummer because I love Glory so much. I love Glory. And when
Glory too. Yeah.
And when I talk about loving Glory, like this is why. This episode is a huge part of that. Her whole riff on feelings being terrible is my favorite.
You know what? She's not wrong.
She is not wrong about feelings being terrible.
Yes.
Feelings are
and people
worst.
People drinking and smoking and screwing each other's brains out because they just don't want to think anymore. Like, yeah.
I mean, like also sign me up.
Right.
I'm interested in the group. Like, Glory's been hanging out with an interesting group of people, apparently. Though.
Yeah.
But she's not wrong. And then she makes this really interesting point about, like, you know, no one is cut out for this, which feels especially relevant right now. As a lot of us, I think, are feeling increasingly trapped inside our own minds with our own thoughts as maybe our external coping mechanisms have been taken away from us. Just me?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But she says, like, really, like, she says to Dawn, oh my gosh, I forget the line. I had it written down. It's in my notes somewhere. God only knows. But she's like basically like, tell me, you know, name one person who can handle this. And Dawn just says, Buffy. And I'm like, yes! And then, of course, because of the episode we're in, we cut to Buffy with Willow just staring into space because she has chosen not to handle it right now.
Yeah, she's shut down.
She's completely shut down. And oh boy, it's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. When you see Buffy just fall down, and it's interesting because Buffy, right? I mean, you know, remember Buffy from Amends, strong is fighting, right? Buffy never stops fighting, right? That's kind of like her defining characteristic. And yet here is this moment when Dawn is taken and she just stops. Right. And then so we're left in this space, you know, and as you're talking about all these parallels, right, we've got, you know, Glory and Dawn. Right. And now we've got Willow and Buffy. Yes. And this is an interesting parallel, too, an interesting connection between these two.
Oh, my gosh. This is huge and so well done. I know dream sequences are not your thing. This is not quite that. This
isn't a dream sequence.
It's
this actually
is loop. It's like a thought loop.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I love it. I love the way this is done, the way Willow, I mean, first of all, Willow just goes into the bedroom where Buffy is sitting, lights some candles, sits down on the edge of the bed, and that's it. Like, that's the spell.
Yeah.
And it's this incredible astral projection, question mark? Like, even Giles, when he finds out. When he finds out what Willow has done, he's like, whoa, that's
incredibly
serious
powerful.
Business.
Right,
like,
serious business. And yet, what it takes for Willow to do it is like snapping her finger.
Amazing. And then she goes into this thought loop with Buffy and cracks this code for us, essentially, of what is going on, what has happened, that Buffy has essentially bought into the belief that because she quit in this one moment, that sealed her sister's fate, and that she has killed her sister by wanting it to end.
For that one moment.
That
right?
one moment that she cannot, Buffy has not let herself off the hook for that one thought.
Right.
That one moment for presumably months now.
Well, yeah, but I mean, go back to Spike in Fool for Love, right? Spike says, I just happened to be there at the moment when these two slayers decided that they were done, right? So he has this moment, and then when you do that, I'm going to have a very good day, right? So we have that whole thing with Spike talking to Buffy, and it's all about death. Right? It's this death is the dance that they do, and that eventually every Slayer has a death wish that they're just going to give up. And whether or not that's reality or just the story that Spike is telling himself, like, that's a whole other discussion, right? But I mean, that's the moment, right? The moment that Buffy decides that she's done, that's when the death happens. Like, like when it actually happens physically is a whole other thing. But that's the moment. So here we have this moment with Buffy where she's putting this book away and she has that thought. That's the moment, right? When she gives up just for that moment. And I can't beat Glory. Dawn is going to die, right?
Yeah.
And feels that relief. There's that moment of relief where you don't have to keep fighting all the time. We saw Angel struggling with that in Amends. It's not the monster in me that needs killing, Buffy. It's the man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's the man that feels relief at the idea of just giving up and not fighting anymore, because fighting is goddamn exhausting, and it's every day. So Buffy back in Amends, when she's talking to Angel in this moment of giving up, she's telling him strong is fighting, keep fighting. That's what you do, And then here we have Buffy's moment where she's giving up. And it's just that moment where she's putting the book on the shelf. And that's the moment where it happens, regardless of when in time it actually happens. That's the moment where she knows that she has given up, that the Dawn is going to die, right? And so I love that whole thing. I love that whole representation. And I love what we're going through with Buffy as this kind of, kind of representative space for mental illness in a lot of ways. Mental illness, there's a lot of mental illness that rides around these looping thoughts, right?
Oh,
where
yeah.
you're just caught in this loop and you just keep going through it over and over and over again, and you can't get out of it. The trauma response in which you separate, right? Into two people. The one that goes about their business throughout the day, getting through the day, and then the other that lives in that thought loop all the time and that cannot escape it. That is the process of healing from trauma, when those parts of you integrate, which was what we see happen for Buffy at the end.
Yep.
She integrates and she wakes up, and then she's ready to keep going. And Willow helps her do that.
Yeah.
Willow, who also at the beginning of the episode, had a magical separation spell for Xander and Spike.
Oh my
right?
God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that when Buffy comes back to herself, she breaks down.
Yes, of course.
That is so good. It's so good.
Because that's what that separation of mental illness is a coping strategy for trauma. In a lot of ways, and a lot of times that's how it happens. We just separate because we because we don't want to have that moment of breaking down.
Yeah.
But you have to have that in order to reintegrate, and kind of heal from that. So, yeah, I mean, not all mental illness is a result of trauma, but some mental illness is. Sometimes that's how we deal with it.
And this is clearly meant to be, it's complicated, right? Because it's communicated to us, the audience, like almost as though Buffy has made a choice.
Yes.
Almost as though, I love little Buffy saying,
little
I like it
Buffy.
here.
Yeah.
I like it here. Willow says, what are you doing here? And she says, I like it here because it is predictable. The loop is predictable. There's a safety in self-blame.
Yeah.
In a way. And the way this is framed, I think, in the episode is that Buffy has chosen to give up. And finally, Willow gets fed up and says, snap out of it.
Right.
Which is, I think, really, it's interesting in this moment. I think it's really, really appropriate for this episode. But I also just like want to explode that out and be like, okay, the solution to a trauma response is not
snap out
not
of it.
to think or, I should just snap out of, I should just be able to integrate this and like move on, or, to think that someone should just snap out of it. But I'm interested in the way that when the external world is impossibly overwhelming, Buffy goes to this internal space where she's clearly trying to accept her role in her sister's death. Like the way, I mean, I feel like I say it every other week, but like fucking Sarah Michelle Gellar, you guys, like,
oh my God,
the depth of the performance of being so calm and accepting of death is my gift. This is what I do. I killed my sister. And that Buffy is allowing this thought of smothering Dawn to repeat in her mind over and over again because she blames herself for Glory capturing Dawn is so good and so powerful and really does, and it really does warrant Willow, who is like the baddest witch of all of the witches, to say snap out of it. Like that is what you need in this moment, is a badass witch.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think that there is, I am not a fan of the slap somebody when they're hysterical kind of trope that we've seen a lot in our culture. I'm not a fan of the Spike in the beginning. I just think Buffy likes it rough and then slaps her. That is Spike projecting onto Buffy. But it's also Spike's
understanding of Buffy as a fighter, right? Like Spike understands this when the going gets tough, the tough just keep fighting thing. And I think I don't actually mind the slap. I think because for Spike, that's like, I will activate her with violence in a way, like, because what we need from her in that moment is activity. And I think Spike is probably, he's tapping into his own like violence as a vehicle for moving through the world. But that made sense to me. But that line, that he uses this as an excuse for why he slaps her, because Xander pulls him off and is like, are you nuts? Like you're going to give her brain damage. What are you doing? And then he says, I'd be willing to wager that at the end of the day, Buffy likes it. I'm like, now is not the time. Like that is.
No, but that is exactly, like, here's the thing. I understand it from Spike as a character. I think it's a good character moment. I don't mind that it's in the show, right? But it does need to be questioned, and Xander questions it, so I think we're all good. Spike saying at the end of the day, I think that Buffy likes it rough, is Spike's projecting onto Buffy the parts of Buffy that he identifies with, that he understands.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense from a character, but I still don't like it. I don't.
No, I understand why you don't like it. I think there's lots of good reasons not to like it. Oh, yeah. No, there are a lot of really good reasons not to like it, especially because but from Spike, very on brand. It's on brand Spike. And it's his understanding of Buffy. The way that he connects with Buffy is through violence. Let's not forget that most of the time when Buffy comes to see him, she punches him in the face, and he fucking loves it.
He's into it. Yeah.
Oh, he is absolutely into it. And I think that he is looking at her punching him in the face as some kind of foreplay, not just for him, but for her. And we'll talk about that in season 6. Yeah. Anyway.
We will so get there when we get there.
We are gonna talk about that in season 6, because in some level, like, he's not entirely wrong in season 6, but right now I don't think that that's the case.
I don't know. I do love what he says about like, now is not the time to be delicate, and he means both Buffy and the group, right?
Mhm.
Like, this is not the time. This is not the time to be kind of hemming and hawing about, oh, should we move her? Maybe we shouldn't move her. Like, we need to fucking act right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
And, you know, and we get that again with Willow at the very end of the thought loop when she just walks away. She's like, done with this. And Buffy's say, where are you going? And Willow says, where you're needed. Are you
Mhm.
coming?
Yeah.
And it's this very, it's such a poignant, potent moment in the friendship of these two.
Yeah.
Like Buffy, in that moment, Buffy may have given up and may have said, well, it doesn't matter what I do because I can't be Glory and Dawn's already dead. And Willow's like, she's not dead yet. I mean, she's gonna be if you stay here.
Yeah.
And we know, I mean, Willow is super powerful. Like, Willow is really the only one who's been able to affect any change
Yeah.
in Glory.
Mhm.
But I mean, Willow, we also know that Willow doesn't stand a chance against Glory, but that doesn't matter because in that moment, Willow's like, well, Buffy, you can stay in your thought loop if you want to, but I'm leaving. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to go fight. And I
Yeah.
think that willingness, like Willow's willingness to fight even when it's probably not going to end well,
Mhm.
I think it speaks so strongly to Willow and the kind of take charge Willow that we get in this episode,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
also to Willow's undying love and support for Buffy.
Mhm.
That it's Willow who calls guilt what it is. I
Mhm.
love that we have this pairing. So we have the pairing of Dawn and Glory, and we have the
Mhm.
pairing of Willow and Buffy. And in
Mhm.
both of those, we have someone say, this is guilt.
Yeah.
Like, we get guilt named in
Mhm.
both those pairings twice. And I just, like, it's on the tip of my brain, but I want there to be even more of a parallel
Mhm.
between those two parallels. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Like, I feel
Yeah.
like, partly because with Willow and Buffy, we're inside Buffy's mind.
Mhm.
And with Dawn and Glory, it's Glory's mind, apparently, that is breaking
Mhm.
down. Like,
Yeah.
she talks a lot about being crazy and what it means to be crazy in this same space that she is losing her
Mhm.
ability to separate from Ben.
Yeah.
And like, there's a story. There's definitely a story here about mental health that we're telling, but not really telling. Like, there are metaphors here about, like, and parallels between characters going through something with their
Mhm.
mental state.
Yeah.
That's kind of there, but, like, not fully realized.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because we are referencing mental health. We talk about this all the time. Like, you know, we use the word crazy a lot in these episodes. The people that Glory has destabilized are, you know, running around, you know, building now, welding
things. That's a skill that you have to, like, isn't that a trade? Don't you go to school for that? Like, I'm sorry.
I guess maybe there's some kind of, like, what Glory did to them gave them, installed a certain operating system that included the skill set welding. I have no
file
idea.
under weird shit that
I
pulls
guess
Noelle out of the episode. Like,
with all the other magical stuff.
whatever.
Sure. Why not? You took away, you know, their stability, then you granted them some extra skill sets. It's all fine, you know.
Totally.
But we have this, you know, reference to, you know, call me crazy. I'm the original one-eyed chick in the kingdom of the blind or whatever, right? You know, that,
Yeah.
that
What? Okay, Glory.
which just a million ableist things all in one,
But
you know,
also just, like,
shot.
What?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
I love her. I love
She's
her.
adorable. I absolutely love her. But you know, we talk about it. Like, I think that we're addressing mental health with empathy in the Buffy storyline, and we are lacking any kind of empathy, or we're addressing mental health as otherizing in the Glory storyline, right? Because we're seeing, like, mental health from the experience of it. You know, we're actually experiencing this mental break with Buffy and seeing where it happened and how it happened and going through the thought loop and then interrupting the thought loop and bringing her out of it and reintegrating her, right? You know, and whereas with Glory, we're looking at mental health through the context of all of these people that she has destabilized, that we're just referring to as these are all the crazy people, right? You know, of which now Tara is one, right? Tara is connecting their big day. Tara is connecting. She sees all of that happening. She is also psychically connected to this. I guess the psychic connection came in with the same operating system update as the welding.
Totally.
And so they're all connected through all of this, but they are like one of the things about mental illness that can be so alarming and why it upsets us so much is that the person who's experiencing it is experiencing a reality that is separate from our own, right? And is separated from, I think, the reality that everybody else is in. They're sort of isolated, you know, but yet here we have all of these people that Gloria's destabilized. They're all connected. They are connected with each other. They all see the same thing. They all are connected to a reality that is reality. Big day. They can see the key. They know a reality that actually the rest of us can't see. So it's kind of an interesting sort of take on this idea of mental illness and what it means for the people experiencing it. And then we have Glory trying to get a hold of herself, you know, while experiencing this breakdown. I mean, you know, here we have integration, right, with Buffy, where Buffy is separated between her physical and mental self. They cannot exist in the same space. She integrates at the end. We're seeing this integration between Glory and Ben also as they fight with each other and fight amongst themselves.
Glory has a literal breakdown. Like she is not able to hold. It's fascinating. She's not able to hold her physical form in place because she's fighting in her mind, apparently, with the person she shares a body with. It's so interesting. I love the whole Ben and Glory fight for control of Dawn, really. Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Especially because it seems to change Ben's mind about saving Dawn versus killing her. That whole scene in the alley is really, really interesting. Yeah. Because as the barrier between Glory and Ben starts to break down, they start to remember each other's actions, the less they struggle to transform from one to the other until it's just this like seamless, you know, the seamless like morphing of one into the other. I mean, I could have done without the like thwarp kind of sound effect that happens.
When that happens a lot. Yeah. When they're morphing right back and forth, it gets a little, you become very aware of the sound effect.
Yeah. It's not great. I don't love the sound effect. I mean, I love it when it happens in an edit. So like Ben grabs Dawn and then Glory takes hold and sort of swings her around. And as we swing to, you know, facing the camera again, it's Claire Kramer, you know, as Glory.
Right,
and it's
but
like,
that's an edit of not a morph effect, you know, where she finishes a movement that he started in the edit. That's really nice. That's a nice effect.
When it becomes more seamless, when, you know, Glory leans up against the wall and then slides down and it's Ben by the time, you know, by the time the motion is finished, that is so effective as this, like they really are just kind of, one is just sliding into the other and they're losing as they lose the struggle to stay apart. Ben kind of cows to Glory in this really interesting way. Like he doesn't take the deal. He doesn't believe her, I think, that she will save him if he turns over Dawn, but he also decides in the end to save himself. Like he says to Dawn, I'm sorry, I got no choice. It's you or me.
Right, but like 5 seconds before that, he was like, I'll bleed her. You won't have a thimbleful left, or, you know, to open your portal.
Taking her, like, I don't believe, and maybe I missed something, but I don't believe that when Ben breaks Dawn out of the construction site where she's being held, that I don't believe that he is intending to kill her. Like,
No.
It's not clear. It feels like he's helping her.
I think maybe he intends at that point to help her, but then when Glory shows up, he says, I will drain her. I will bleed her now so you don't have anything. So that's the thing is that Ben has basically two choices in front of him, right? Where he kills Dawn now and ruins Glory's plans and saves the world, right?
Right.
I mean, saves the world. Or he lets Glory go ahead with her plans, lets the world burn, right? And Glory finds a place for him somehow and keeps her promise, right?
Maybe. Yeah, assuming she keeps her promise.
Right. From Ben's perspective, the choice that he makes is the far shittier, more risky choice. If he just kills Dawn right then and bleeds her out in the middle of that alleyway, he can convince himself that he's a hero and he just saved the fucking world. But instead, he chooses to trust that Glory, like, it's a risk that Glory, and he would ruin Glory's plans, and there's nothing Glory be able to do, and Glory would just leave and he'd get his life back, right? But he chooses instead to go through with this plan with Glory and just trust Glory at her word that she's going to be able to put his consciousness into its own autonomous form somehow in the hell dimension where she's going to go and like torment everybody else. Why in the world is Ben making this choice?
Because Ben, I mean, what I hate most, what I hate most is that he says to Dawn, I got no choice. It's you or me. But it's really not.
It's really not.
Like, it's really not. And is it just, I don't know. Like, is it?
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Now, what I wanted to see from Ben here, what actually makes sense to me from Ben here is the choice between killing Dawn now, and saving the world, and then Glory just goes because Glory has nothing to gain from being there anymore, So that, like, that's the struggle I wanted. That's the moral struggle I want to see him take. This choice to just be like, oh, I presume that when Glory unleashes hell on all of the realms, because the barriers between dimensions, the key opens everything. So the barrier between all dimensions is going to be like, hell is going to be unleashed on the good ones, right? Or I would not necessarily refer to Earth as a good one, a good-ish one, a better than hell one, right? Yeah. So I don't know, like it seems like not a question at all that he would allow that to happen, that he would bring Dawn back to Glory. I like him struggling with the idea of, I can be a hero, I can do one terrible thing and I can save the world, and convincing himself that that's something that he can do. That's an interesting moral question, I think, for Ben. This feels weird and dumb. Like, it's not the better choice.
And have we established that nothing happens if Ben dies? Like, if Ben kills himself?
If Ben kills himself, he also kills Glory.
So, I mean, I guess that raises the question,
why
can
is that
Ben
not
die? And why?
Well, yeah.
I mean...
Well, and it could be like a Hulk thing, right? Whenever Hulk tries to kill him, or whenever Bruce Banner tries to kill himself, Hulk comes out. And so it could be like, have we had the question of whether Ben has tried to commit suicide to get rid of Glory? Like, Ben, I think, is such a not an interesting character. He's so selfish and immature, and fine, that's what he is, but it makes him so much less interesting than somebody who would really struggle with this moral choice. I tried to kill myself and that's not an option, and I tried to do this, but he's so immature, and he's sitting there complaining to Dawn, who's being tortured and terrified, and terrorized here, about does she ever think about me? Does she ever think about the fact that I have a job? And are you kidding? Yeah.
Are you what? How much?
No,
of
she's
a
hell
sense
god.
does
Of
he
course, she's not thinking about you.
I have so many questions.
I know.
It raises so many questions. So, Okay, so Glory tells us that she's starting to feel Ben's compassion and humanity and all of these other miserable
Ben has
things.
no compassion or humanity.
But that is, yes. So this is where I'm getting. Like, she's
Exactly.
Glory is freaked out in a way that we haven't seen her, and like basically begging her high priest to give her a benectomy on the spot.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like I get that, and I love that idea that she's starting to feel humanity, but Ben's humanity is not that strong.
How much compassion does Ben actually have? How much empathy does Ben actually have? It doesn't seem like a whole lot. Ben is all about Ben all the time. Like, there is nothing. I have seen nothing. Now, had Ben been written as someone who has an excess of empathy, can you imagine if Ben had been written as an empath who could feel all of these things, right? And then Glory comes in, and Glory is nothing. Like, Glory is not an empath. Glory doesn't have any of that. So Ben feels everything all the time. And if Ben, as an empath, had tried to kill himself to get rid of Glory but couldn't do it, had tried to interrupt Glory's plans but couldn't, then finally gets to this moment where he has to make a choice between this little girl and the world, and the little girl is going to die no matter what, as far as he knows, because it's either he kills this little girl or Glory does, right? So you have Glory with Ben bleeding into her. By the time we get here, we've seen Ben's extreme empathy and compassion, and that he is all about everybody else, right? And so we see Glory starting to feel that, and then we see Ben starting to get Glory's, you know, kind of pragmatic, let's get shit done happening, right? He gets a moment, you know, where he doesn't feel everybody's pain all the time, and then looks at Dawn and thinks, if I could just kill this little girl, I could save the world and Glory would go away. That would make Ben so interesting. But instead, we have this incredibly selfish, doesn't seem to have a whole lot of compassion. Yes, he works as a doctor, but it's not because he wants to actually help people and save people. He doesn't seem to care. He's a jerk throughout the whole thing, you know? So yeah, it would have been so cool to see that happen and have us actually say something about it. But here we're seeing Glory have more compassion with Dawn than Ben has ever really had.
Well, and even before Ben and Glory are kind of bleeding into each other, Glory does the thing with Dawn. You know, Glory's in the Summers house, you know, several episodes ago, and turns to Dawn and says, your sister took my key. Do you know where it is? And, you know, it's like, it's sinister friendly, but it's definitely she's trying to get to Dawn by appealing to her as the little sister, as the one no one listens to.
Right.
And that is more of a connection, like a human connection, I think, than we see with anything that Ben does.
No.
Like,
Ben
ever.
is total trash human.
He's, I mean,
had you put Glory, this hell beast, in the body of somebody who was goodness personified, and then when we go into the gift, Ben is goodness personified, and then Giles kills him.
Right.
I mean, that makes that even more of a really interesting question. Oh my God. How cool would that have been?
I think the bottom line is that they wrote themselves into a little bit of a corner with the Ben Glory relationship. Like, I would have loved, I think I've said it before, but I would have loved to have seen more of a like a Fight Club type scenario with Ben, where he's like, or a, you know, Ben like having a, you know, the guy in Memento realizing what his tattoos mean kind of moment. Like, I want, in order to connect with Ben, and then possibly like feel really betrayed and, you know, whipped around when he does turn Dawn over, you know, if he decided to do that in this alternate story that we're writing right now. I would have liked to have felt more connection to Ben and his process of figuring out what this all means.
But of course, it's the choice that he would make.
You know, it's not that
out of all the
story.
choices.
Like, it's not that story. It's just this like Ben is a human who has lived in the shadow of Glory since he was an infant and has this like weird cupboard under the stairs kind of room in her mansion. Can we talk?
In her mansion.
Can we talk about
bare
Spike?
light bulb over a
Right?
sink in the corner. My God,
Yeah,
yes.
just like a little corner sink and like a little twin bed and his, his Dr. Scrubs hanging on a wire hanger with his ID. So, in case there was any question. But I just...
That it was Ben's room, yeah.
I love Spike just like spiking through Glory's mansion, lighting a cigarette, and then discovering this little cupboard. And it's weirdly chilling for a moment. And then I'm just confused. Like, I'm confused all over again. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
How?
A whole mansion, and why doesn't she give Ben like a decent room? I mean, like, what's it like? I don't know. It just seems weird.
Where are the minions when Ben is Ben?
Yeah.
Like, how much of a sense of glory does Ben have? Just like, obviously he knows that he shares a body with her and he gripes about waking up in a dress. I'm like, please.
Right.
Like, okay. So hard.
Dresses are so comfortable. Shut up, Ben. That is not your big problem. Yes.
How, like, okay, literally, how would you figure out what was going on with you? Unless the minions were around.
Yeah.
But what? I don't.
And when did it, like, he grew up, you would think, with parents, right? Or were the minions the ones that raised him from a baby? Were there parents for Ben? Or was it?
Okay. That is a much more compelling story.
How interesting would that be?
The minions have stolen a baby, which, okay, first of all, for it. Like, very outside over there. Very, like, very Sendak. They steal a baby. They put a god into it. They raise it in a mansion on a hellmouth. Like, give me, please tell me that fan fiction exists because I want to know. But
I think that's an interesting story because, we're presuming that Ben had a normal childhood with parents and whatever, and then went away to the big city, Sunnydale, and suddenly was waking up in a dress and losing time. And, these minions were there that explained it to him. Because the way that it is now, when we see the barriers start to break down between Ben and Gloria, they couldn't communicate with each other before. They had to communicate through the minions. They had no knowledge of each other. They just knew that they lost time. Right. So yeah. But he knew when she was coming. She's coming. Leave. Get out now, right? Yeah.
Which maybe is a skill that you garner as you get older and you're used to like having your body taken over. I don't know.
But Glory finishes his sentence. She's coming. And Glory finishes the sentence. And then she's there.
I really want more information about how this works.
I find it fascinating, but like the way that it's presented to us feels flat and disappointing in a space that could have been really textured.
Especially because Claire Kramer as Glory is so wonderful and like scenery chewing, and like when you give her those scenes where she's got to be like pacing and monologuing at dawn or fighting with Ben. She's so good that I would like to have had more buy-in on the other side, I guess. Like, I don't, as much as I love Ben and Glory morphing in and out of each other, I'm not as invested in that mental, those mental gymnastics as I am in the Buffy thought loop and how is Willow going to get her out of there? Right. I don't know. I just want more. I just want more from the Glory Ben side of things. I want it to be, I mean, as much as this show makes us feel terrible when anything happens to anyone, I want it to feel even worse. Like, I want Giles killing Ben to feel like the worst thing.
To feel like a terrible choice to have to make. I want Ben to mean something to these people. I want Ben to be a Scooby during this season.
Like an honorary Scooby. That would be so great.
Brought in as somebody that they actually care about. Can you imagine if it had been Xander? Okay. Give Xander Glory hops into Xander's body during this season. Can you imagine? And that was the choice that Giles had to make?
Whoa.
Kill Xander?
I mean, yeah, that would be amazing.
That is a very Whedon-y choice.
Totally.
At the end. So yeah, like, I mean, but if they had brought Ben in as this wonderfully empathetic, like, good person, if he had been the one that Buffy, like, if Buffy had actually started dating him, like, if we had gotten rid of
I'm so
Riley
glad
so
she
much
didn't,
earlier.
though.
I know. Well, yeah, and the dating thing, I feel like is it's not something that I wanted to see in that relationship with Buffy and Ben. But if he had been somebody that had meant something to them, what if he had been at Sunnydale High? What if it had been, I know we used Jonathan, but what if, like, I'm coming through all these things. Like, what if it had been Larry? What if it had been Larry, who we knew all through high school, who ended up being so incredibly sweet, who we loved, who had been part of the Scoobies in the alternate Wish universe, right?
Oh, shit. That would have been great.
If we had brought Larry in and made Larry Ben, right? And so here we have Larry, who we love, who has somehow, become part of the Scoobies because he's available in one,
he's a doctor.
realm or another.
He could still be a doctor.
Right? He could still, well, I at this age, no, because they're all like 20, so
but,
I don't think he could be a doctor.
He could be a certified nursing assistant.
He could be
very important people.
Absolutely. Absolutely could
really
be. He
important
could have
people
gone
in our
and gotten
society.
that kind of certification. Yeah. But I mean, like, if he had been somebody who had mattered to us, and also somebody who we'd already knew from high school, if we had taken him and made him this character, and then Glory had inserted herself into his life, right?
Yeah.
I think all of that it would have been so much more interesting. And Larry, we could see a huge amount of empathy forming in Larry when he came out as gay and then became a decent person. And like, all of that could have been really beautifully done. Not to mention the fact that Larry wouldn't have stood out the way that Ben did in the middle of this season, where we're like, well, who the hell is this dude? We'd have been like, oh,
Right.
hey, it's Larry. We love Larry,
We
Although
would have had
Larry
to have
died.
not
Didn't
killed
Larry
him at
die?
graduation. Yeah.
He got killed in graduation. But also, like, something like that where we could have brought that back. But I think that, I think we just basically all of this just to say that it was an opportunity missed. Noelle, what are you wearing?
Oh my gosh. So I talked last week about, the gendered nature of clothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And piggybacking on that, I do not envy the costume department, the challenge of needing to find something that would fit both Glory and Ben and also enable us to take them both seriously as they are fighting for control of their existence and also of Dawn. But Glory's black jumpsuit with the little metallic belt is very, very good. Very good. And when you top it with that bell sleeve red velour robe, it's very hot cultist. Like, I think they did a good job. I mean,
no, they did
like a bell sleeve and a robe with a little train is just like always a good moment. But when you're sweeping around a dungeon or an alley, it's extra great. And I think they really nailed it with that costume
It works
choice.
Really nicely.
I
works really nicely.
really like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. No, I think it's real good. All right. So girl power moment of the week.
Oh, not with a girl power bit.
I mean, I think there's one, right? I mean, there's only one.
Oh, shit. I mean, take charge, Willow.
Yeah.
Take charge, Willow. Her whole snapping to attention. Because at first, I love the way this plays out. I love the way Willow, like all of Willow, plays out in this episode. Because at first, she's so afraid and so timid because Buffy's not responding. And she's like, oh, should we move her? No, we shouldn't move her. Oh, what should we do? I'm not sure. And then with Xander and Spike start to fight and she separates them magically. She like snaps.
She's not having any of it.
Yeah. You can fight after the world ends. And she just goes into like total boss witch. You do this. You do that. This is what's going to happen. And everyone complies. It's amazing. And then they're all a little freaked out too, which is great. When Anya's
even Spike, she's ordering Spike around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anya's like, she's got this like, with all due respect kind of tone. Like, what are you going to do? And Willow I think she says, I'm going to help Buffy. Is that her line?
Yeah.
It's incredible. She's incredible.
Yeah. I'm going to, okay, here's what you all are going to do. And I am going to go into the mind of the Slayer magically and retrieve her from wherever she is. I mean, my God.
She could be anywhere. You know, that's the other thing is when Willow goes in.
She doesn't know what she's going to find in there.
She has no clue. And I love that we get to see her like getting her bearings. And then as soon as she knows, as soon as she understands where she is, she, you know, is able to travel through Buffy's thought loop in this like really confident way, even though she is working out, you know, as we are, what's going on with Buffy and what all of this means. She's still so confident in there. And I absolutely love the choice to keep cutting back to that shot of Willow and Buffy sitting in Xander's room.
Yeah.
And they're just sitting there still with their eyes open, like pointed toward each other. It's so good. It's so good. This is such amazing Willow. She's so strong. She's so, she's still so loving toward Tara. She is no nonsense with everyone. And I mentioned it already, but she just like freaking lights some candles and sits down and that's it. That's
it. Her own power is enough that that's all she needs to do.
I mean, it's not a coincidence that her nickname is Will, right? Like her own will to make this happen. It's incredible. And it's also something that we will see more going forward. Willow using magic in this very active, external, like magic is the solution to this problem sort of way.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
she can
here,
fix anything with magic.
Yeah, like here, it absolutely is. I mean, I think that it is I can't imagine what else they would have done.
Yep.
But at the same time, I mean, she's taking a huge risk. She's taking a huge risk doing what she does, but she does it with so much confidence and so much authority. I mean, Spike kind of being like deferring to Willow and being like, don't turn me into a horned toad or whatever. But she is incredible. She is incredible. I am so in love with Willow in this episode, and she does it wearing this like bedazzled plaid shirt. That's like, I love it. It's very early odds. I mean, this is why the L comes first in the initialism, everyone. Like, this is why. She's, I mean, damn.
She's badass.
When you need to get shit done, you put a lesbian witch in charge. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so with that, I'm going to give you my favorite part, which is Willow in the gas station being like, you're all going to do this. I'm going to do this. You do what I tell you, and you do it now. I love that whole thing with Willow. That is like my favorite part of this whole thing. What's your favorite part?
I have so many favorite parts. There are so many great little nuggets in this episode. It's really hard to choose. I love Willow in the desert. When we cut from like we're at the Summers home and then we're at the magic box and then we cut to the fire and she just goes, okay. Like,
yes.
This is one of these things is not like the others. I love her saying, recognizing Sinea and saying, oh, you're the first Slayer who tried to kill us in our dreams. How you been? Just like no hard feelings, you know? Nope. It's delightful.
I like that. Yeah.
It's delightful.
No. Yeah.
And I just love Glory wondering how the hell people do it, by which she means deal with feelings, because honestly.
Yeah. We're all wondering that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's pretty damn good. All right, if you enjoyed this conversation, would like to join in, connect with the show on Twitter, follow @Chipperish and use the hashtag StillPretty.
This episode of Still Pretty was brought to you by the Chipperish media producers who support us on Patreon at the power producer level. These people are the reason why Still Pretty is coming to you free and ad-free right now, so thank you to our August producers: Abigail, Alice, Erica, Rose, Jonathan, Kristen, Sarah, and Shelley. And this week's special message for our power producers: gods don't pay.
To find out how you too can support Chipperish Media, visit patreon.com/chipperish. Other ways to show your support: write a great review on Apple Podcasts, tell your friends about the show, or smack Xander upside the head. It'll be worth it.
We will be back next time with The Gift, the 22nd episode of Season 5. Until then, feelings. Hate them. I mean, really, is this what the poets go on about? This?